Thank you for being with us. We appreciate your taking the time out of your busy schedule. So, are we ready for the election, and where are we?
We are. I mean, first, thanks for having me and for all that you do to inform citizens about this critical role we all have in this moment to protect our democracy and participate in it. In Michigan, we are ready. We have already seen people voting in significant numbers. Early voting starts in Detroit on Saturday, October 19th. It starts statewide Saturday, October 26th. And all across the state, our clerks are preparing. Ballots are ready to go. Machines have been publicly tested for accuracy, and we're excited and ready to ensure that the will of the people is heard, whatever that may be this year.
Mhm. How many people have voted so far absentee, if we know that?
Over 670,000 citizens have already returned their ballots in Michigan, and that's about 2.1 million who have requested their ballots already. And remember, you can request your ballot at michigan.gov/vote and track it to make sure you receive it on time. And as long as it is back in your clerk's hands by 8 p.m. on election night, it will count.
They can also drop it off instead of mailing it. Is that correct?
Yes, if you have a ballot or if you would like to vote from home, you can fill it out and mail it back without having to pay for postage, or you can return it at a local drop box or at an early voting center or your clerk's office. It
Mhm,
just has to be received by 8 p.m. on November 5th.
mhm, mhm. And as far as voting, what do we need to take with us?
Well, when you show up to vote in person, be sure if you have an ID to bring it. If you don't have one, you'll be asked to use your signature to sign an affidavit. That signature will be used to verify your identity. Either way, we want to make sure that everyone who is voting is eligible to vote and is voting once. We have all those protections in place through our poll book and our poll workers to make sure that's the case. Then you'll get your ballot, fill it out, put it through the machine. You'll get an I voted sticker and you'll be on your way.
So Saturday is the first day of early voting. What other dates we need to know?
Well, when we get closer to the election, right now you can register to vote online. If you haven't already, you can also check your voter registration status at michigan.gov/vote. But beginning Monday, October 21st, we will be within 2 weeks of Election Day. And that's when online voter registration shuts down. And if you have to register to vote, you still can up to an election day, but you'll have to do that in person at your local clerk's office.
Either the city or the township or the village or
Correct.
something like that.
Mhm. And you
Okay.
can find out where your local clerk is by entering your information at michigan.gov/vote.
Slash vote. What's new this year?
The biggest thing that's new this year is early voting. Throughout
Mhm,
our state, citizens will have 9 days to vote in person with a machine and their ballot, just as you would on election day itself. So that's essentially made us go from having an election day on November 5th to several election days spanning the course of a week leading up
sure,
to November 5th.
sure. This is the first time we have the early voting?
It is. We
Yeah.
have because citizens voted to amend our Constitution in November of 2022 to give a right to vote early. And it's
Mhm,
especially helpful for working families or folks who don't have time on a Tuesday in November to vote at their local precinct. You now
mhm.
can vote on a Saturday or Sunday or a full week before that November 5th date, and your ballot will count just as if you voted on election day itself.
Mm. And these ballots are going to be tabulated the day of the vote or on election day?
They are tabulated as you go. So during the early voting period, all ballots that are returned, whether through the mail or voted in person at an election site, are processed then and there.
Mhm. And where do we vote early?
You can find the location of your early voting center at michigan.gov/vote. You'll
Mm,
enter in your information, your address and name, and it'll pop up the hours of early voting centers in your community.
absolutely. And again, just to remind the folks that if they're not registered, they can still register online till you said till Wednesday,
Until October 21st, that's Monday.
21st. Yeah,
But after
Monday.
that,
Yeah.
you can still register to vote. You just have to do it in person at your local clerk's
Mhm,
office.
at the local close. There
Mhm.
has been a lot of misinformation. What's the best way to get correct information?
Such an important question. Everyone can go to the election facts website we have set up at michigan.gov/election facts. That's where you can find out answers from everything to how we make sure that only U.S. citizens are voting, to what we do once your ballot is returned and ensure that it's counted. Michigan.gov/election facts is your one-stop shop for information, the truth about our elections.
Now, the difference between the general election and the primary is in the general election, I can criss and cross between different parties.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yes.
I cannot,
Right.
sorry, I cannot vote twice for, different people in the same slot. But, for example, for president, I can, vote Democrat, then for Congress, I can vote Republican, so forth and so on. Is that correct?
Correct. You can vote across party lines in the general. It's only in our primary where you have to stick to one party when you vote.
And again, it is that circle I have to, color it in, make sure it's all colored in.
And you can view your sample ballot at michigan.gov/vote, so you can make a plan ahead of time for how you might want to cast your vote and raise your voice.
Absolutely. I do that for the family. I print one and we go
Oh,
over it and make
wonderful.
sure everybody, because it saves time, specifically,
Yes.
yeah. Are you expecting a lot of people to vote?
We hope so. We always hope to break turnout goals. Michigan led the nation in youth vote turnout in 2022, and we hope to do so again this cycle.
Yeah. Presidential elections attract a lot of people.
They do.
Yeah. What other issues statewide that are on the ballot, because now everybody's talking about the presidential election. What other issues on the ballot statewide that people need to know about?
Well, we have a U.S. Senate race, as well as state house races, congressional races, and local races as well. And many communities also have judicial races and ballot initiatives or referendums on there too. This Michigan Supreme Court also has 2 positions that are open. So all of those races are really important to know about. 411.org, that's 411.org, is another great website you can go to with information, nonpartisan information about the different offices on the ballot.
Yep. For safety, could you just help us understand what are my rights when I go to vote? There are people going to be out there asking me to vote for this guy and that guy, where they should be standing and what, and just the general idea about safety.
Well, we'll be monitoring every polling place, all 5,000 polling places in our state, to make sure there are no disruptions. Oftentimes, we do see candidates or their representatives who are very eager to convince supporters to vote on their behalf, sometimes interfering with the process, but they cannot go within 100 feet of any voting location, candidates or their advocates. So there can be no campaigning within 100 feet of a polling or voting location. If you do see anything, report it to a poll worker on site. And you can also call 866-OUR-VOTE. That's 866-OUR-VOTE to report any concerns that you see.
In the past, I've seen monitors, these people who come inside, stand there. How far should they be from where I'm voting?
100 feet away from where you are.
No, inside the voting area. Are there, what do you call them?
Every polling place will have a spot for observers where they can stand and observe from afar.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. Is there anything I haven't asked you that people need to know?
I think your vote and your voice is your power, and we want everyone to exercise it this year in this critical election that will determine the future of our state and our country. Michigan.gov/vote is your one-stop shop for all voting information. And if all else fails, you can reach out to your local clerk when you have specific questions. If you receive something in the mail or get a phone call that sounds fishy, call your local clerk as well and talk with them to get trusted information about your vote.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time to be with us and help us understand what's going on. We're so excited. This is really, I always get excited when it's election time, I've
Me
reported on
too.
it for years and years and years. This is really great time for people to practice their democracy and democracy in action. Thank you again. I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us.
Thanks for having me, Khalil, and see you again soon.
See you. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. Please stay tuned.